And we can also trigger navigation inside our code. So if we go to the chat view controller, and we go back to our logout pressed IB action, what we want to happen is after the user logs out and there weren't any problems, then we want to navigate back to the first screen on the storyboard. So we want to go back 2 steps, 1, 2. And the easiest way to do that is using a method called pop to root view controller. And the root view controller is of course the one that's at the very bottom of the stack, the first one that we see when we launch our app. Now let me show you the code that we'll use to pop to the root view controller. So we're going to tap into the navigation controller, and then we're going to use its method called pop to root view controller, and animated will set as true. Now when we call that method, you can actually see a little warning pop up in Xcode. And what it's trying to tell us is that this method actually returns a value. And the value that it returns is an array of view controllers representing the items that were popped from the stack. So in essence, what Xcode is trying to force us to do is to make us check to make sure that there is something for us to pop off, i.e. make sure that we're not already at the root view controller. Because if there is nothing to remove from the stack, then if we removed the last view controller, we would end up with absolutely nothing and our app would crash. So in order to make this safer, we have to use a guard statement. So let me write out the code and I'll show you how it works. So we're going to write guard, and then we're going to enclose the statement that we want to guard from failing. And then we're going to check to make sure that this does not equal nil, i.e. there are view controllers that we can pop off. And if this guard statement does trip, then we want to print and write no view controllers to pop off. And then we're going to return. So now the warnings disappear and our code is safer. So guard statements allow the termination of the code block if certain conditions are not met. And as we mentioned before, this method returns an array of all the view controllers that can be popped off the stack. Now, if that does not equal nil, then this should execute. But if it does equal nil, i.e. else, then we should print there's an error and there's no view controllers to pop off so that we can tell the programmer what's going on. And then, most importantly, we return, i.e. we stop instead of going ahead and just callously popping off the last view controller, whereby our app would crash. So our guard statement is almost like a metaphorical guard. It prevents the failure of certain statements from crashing your app and provides an alternative that allows for an early termination of the code. So let's go ahead and test out our code and see if it actually works. Okay, so let's go ahead and register ourselves as a new user. So I'm going to be something like 2@3.com and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit register and we get taken to the chat view controller. Now from here, we're going to click the log out button in order to trigger all of that code that we just wrote, i.e. sign out and take us back to the root view controller, skipping the register view controller. And everything works as expected. We didn't get any errors, so our guard statement passed and we managed to pop back to the beginning of our app, or in programming lingo known as the root view controller.